Well, good afternoon, everyone. How are we doing? This is Bob Gums with the Concerned Forum. And I will tell you, folks, we live in a very sad and depressing time. What we have to take a look at, first of all, we have to take a look at ourselves. We have to recognize that what we're facing right now, this moment, is comparable to another Valley Forge, to another Bunker Hill, to another D-Day at Normandy. This is the context in which we have to take a look and see where America is at today. Now, we see people now who are willing to tear down everything that this country stands for, everything that this country is supposed to mean to us and to the world. And, I'm sorry, I don't think that folks are getting this, or at least not enough. Now, we have to understand something. There is a cost for freedom. You have all these, you have these guys running around hollering, USA, USA. Somebody needs to ask these people, when you're yelling USA, when you got your shirt and T-shirt, running around bareback, climbing poles and screaming, USA, USA, what the hell does that mean? What do you think that means? What is that supposed to mean? And sadly, with most of them, I think all they're going to do is just kind of give you that deer in the headlights stare. Because they don't know what it means. They have no idea what patriotism is supposed to mean. And I tell you, frankly, I'm to the point now where I say enough is enough. Now, since January 6th of last year, America has done a very great job in basically ignoring some of the bitter truths about American society. Look, we have to face the proposition that there is a segment of this country and a political party, one of the two major political parties, that for all practical intents and purposes, they've declared war on the rest of us. They have declared war on the American ideal. And we have to recognize the fact, you got people walking, oh, well, do you think we're on the verge of another civil war? Do you think another civil war could happen? Baby, we are at war. I don't know where these folks have been. We have been attacked. Our nation has been attacked. Who we are as a country has been attacked. And what we have to do, we have to figure the most intelligent way to respond to this attack. Now, I know that there might be a few of you out there that were here for Pearl Harbor, okay? But hear me out. Pearl Harbor was an attack, and America responded to that attack. Frankly, I think that when Trump somehow was able to get himself in to the White House, because remember, he did not, once again, he did not win the majority of the vote, of the popular vote. But him going into that White House, our White House, as far as I'm concerned, that was our Pearl Harbor. And that I'm sorry, that has to be recognized. No person who's running for president of the United States and stands up there and condemns a whole group of people, that's an attack. That's an attack upon what America supposedly stands for. And if you don't get that, then you just don't get it, quite frankly. We are also waging war against a pandemic that has killed thousands upon thousands of people around the world, not just us. I think that we have handled it terribly, especially in terms of other, I hate to use these terms, first world nations. We have done just about the worst. That means in comparison to Canada, Britain, Spain, France, Portugal, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, I think we have done the worst job. And I do believe that the facts and figures will bear that out. We are finally becoming aware of the fact that we have a very serious psychological problem in this country, which is why we need to tell our political leaders, watch what the hell you're saying. Because unfortunately, as we used to say in the Navy, you have a lot of people in this country that are not carrying a full sea bag. So when you jump up and down and scream and use violent terminology, you are literally playing with you're literally playing with loaded weapons. And it's time that we people start coming out and saying that. So I guess this episode today, hell, call it a plea for sanity. When you have Congress people who manage to get themselves elected by virtue of the fact that they believe that Jewish people are riding around in outer space above the North American continent, lighting up forest fires, hey, we got problems. And these are the people that we send to Congress. So can you imagine the type of people that they have in a district that would elect a person that says that Jews in space are using laser beams to set fire to the country? And as far as I know, NASA, the Department of Defense, they're all saying the same things. And I think that they know a little bit better than the lady from Georgia, the congresswoman that said that bizarre rant. But that just goes to show you what we have to work with in this country. And, you know, somebody wants to talk about, oh, well, the craziness of the 60s. I'm sorry. You know, you can call us crazy from the 60s, but we didn't engage in conversations like that. You know, these politicians can say something, and the next thing you know, a mob could attack a Chinese American or an Indian American. And remember, you're dealing with a country where most of these people could not tell the difference between somebody from India as opposed to, say, someone from Sumatra, you know? And these are dangerous and insecure times, and the mental health of the society, it has a lot to do with it. And that's another thing that makes me wonder. Even a great guy and a damn fine comedian like Bill Maher will say that the biggest problem we have, one of the biggest problems we have in this country, is the woke terminology. And I'm asking myself, wait a minute. In some parts of this country, an Asian person can be minding his own business, walking down the street, and be beaten and killed because he's Asian. And you're telling me that by me and other progressives using the term woke, that somehow that's one of the biggest things that we have to be afraid of in the USA. No, Bill, I'm sorry, I have to heartily disagree. I don't even think that it's worth a mention. All woke means is that you wake up, that you pay attention to a particular issue. That's all woke means. And if that term, if that really shakes someone up or scares people, well, I mean, that's unfortunate for them. But no, sorry, pal, that's not one of the biggest problems this country has. Now, if you don't like, because folks like myself are trying to draw attention to particular issues, oh, well, like I said, that's too bad for you. But don't tell me that's one of America's greatest problems, or even that is one of the biggest problems of progressive people. No, I'm sorry, it's not. The FBI has said that the most dangerous game in town here in America is the rise of white nationalism, not the term woke. And I think that the nationalism thing, that's what we need to really focus on, along with other aspects of our mental health. And I mean, how many countries do we have on this planet where you have such a concern, such a problem with mental health issues combined with the huge amount of weapons that we have here in the United States among people that really shouldn't have the damn weapons in the first place? And no, I'm not saying that we should, what is that, the Second Amendment? I'm not saying that, you know, we should try to cancel the Second Amendment. What I am saying is that we need to be aware of the situation that we have in this country, with so many mental health issues and so many weapons handguns, long guns. You know, it's madness. And the greater madness is the fact or the reluctance of our leadership to look at it, to discuss these things. That is the real crime. Now, since January 6th, the January 6th, we've witnessed the Republican Party attempt to overthrow our elected government. And the insanity is that the people who deserve to be in jail for this are not there yet. And to sit down and watch Republicans condemn the people who are doing the investigation, that's pretty much like, I am going to attack the cops because the cops are harassing lawbreakers. And I mean, these are people who've already broken the law, okay? We know what they've done. We've seen what they've done. And the funny thing is, the Republicans are supposed to be the guys for law and order. And you look at that tape, and you see all these Republican sympathizers, all these so-called patriots beating cops about the head and shoulders with Confederate flags. And again, you claim to be so patriotic. How can you call yourself patriotic when you break into our Capitol with the Confederate flag? Look, folks, let's remember something. The Confederate flag is the flag of treason. Now, your great-granddaddy was rode with Bedford Forrest, and, your great-great-granny, she hung out with Jeff Davis's wife, and partied at the presidential mansion in Richmond, Virginia for the Confederacy. Yeah, okay, I get that. I get the fact that you have historical and familiar family ties with the whole Confederacy thing. But that doesn't change the facts, okay? And this is something else that needs to be tackled. And Americans from all over the country need to understand that the thing about a society, the thing about law and order, is that it's there. Even when your guy loses. You have that young man in North Carolina, congressperson, who has publicly said, hey, we lose the election, we should start taking our weapons and go out and maybe start shooting people. Hey, man, that's not the way it works. It is a competition, right? You win, you lose. And see, you know what the major problem behind all this is that the Republican Party lost touch with the majority of the American people. And I tell you how we can prove this. The issues that progressives have been championing, right? Let's see. Sane immigration laws, okay? Government help, college, aid for people trying to get through college, okay? national health care. All these things with all Americans usually score anywhere between 65 to 80% of the American people being in favor of. And that is why the Republicans are afraid, because they look at the stats and they see it for themselves. Progressives, Democrats generally champion the things that the majority of the American people are in favor of. But instead of the Republican Party acting the way that a political party is supposed to act in a democratic society, which is, hey, look, the majority of the people are going for this. Let's have a town meeting. Let's have a meeting where we sit down and we figure, well, what about our platform that we can maybe dust off, take a look at it. Maybe national health care would be a good thing. How can we provide national health care for the country in such a way that would not betray our principles? But the Republican Party, for some reason, they feel that they're too good to have to do that. They feel that they are too good to listen to the majority of the American people. I guess there's reasons for it, but that's essentially what the problem is. And another part of the problem is that you now, we'll put it this way, over the last, since the 80s, you have seen spawned a Republican Party that hates government. I've never seen, think about that, a political party that runs people for government office, but they hate government. It's no wonder that when Republicans have the opportunity to be in the majority and dominate, they do a lousy job because they hate government, which also brings to mind the question, why in the hell should anybody vote for Republicans since Republicans hate government? So why in the hell do you fight so hard to be part of the thing that you claim you hate the most? That's A. And B, if you hate government that much, how do you make just and intelligent change in the society if you don't believe that government should be the vehicle by which we do that? See, that's the thing about the Republican Party that people find so amazing. That's why I say the Republican Party, let's stop calling it the Republican Party and call it by the way that they act. Let's call them the new Taliban, because that's how they act. And it's time that the American people, which as I see, more and more are starting to realize this. You cannot let these people have a chance to take over the levers of government. And something else too, this is not a political fight, okay? This is a fight over whether we will have a democracy or a democratic nation, or whether we will have a communist or a Stalinist type of government here in the United States. Look at what these clowns were doing. You don't have to take my word for it or take the word of any other progressive or Democrat. Listen to them. Listen to their words. Listen for yourself. The emails coming out of Fox News. Does this sound like a party that believes in the people's right to rule themselves? I don't think so. I don't say that, let's punish Republicans because they're Republicans or because it's an excellent political opportunity. Because, again, I repeat, this is not about politics. This is about who we are as a nation. You're going to put these people back in so that maybe they can figure out a way to put Trump back in the White House? I mean, we see all that. The world sees all that. But what happened? What does it mean? It means dictatorship. Everything the Republicans have been doing just about for the last decade, it comes right out of the Nazi playbook. Remember, that's what the Nazis did in the Weimar Republic in Germany in the early 30s. They used the political process to make Germany a dictatorship. I mean, this is no joke. This is not a game. This is not a political game. Those cops that were killed on January 6th, they're dead. They are really dead. The cops that committed suicide, okay, because of that riot, they're really dead. And I know it must have been horrific for those folks. Here it is. I represent law and order, the thing that you good folks claim that you're supposed to be so much in favor of. Law and order. You raised holy hell with Kaepernick when he took a knee. And you said, oh, this guy, he's un-American. He's, anti-patriotism. And all he was doing, he was taking a knee in prayer, drawing attention to the fact of people of color, especially men of color, being killed. Unarmed men of color being killed by agents of law enforcement. That's all he was doing. He wasn't burning the flag. He wasn't spitting on the flag. Most of the folks that participated in the whole kneeling thing were people who had kinfolk, who had served in the military or who were serving in the military. What you gave Kaepernick and those folks, you gave them holy hell. And then what happens? January 6th. Oh, well, we see cops being beaten to death with the American flag and the Confederate flag in our nation's capital. So what is it that you're trying to say? Anytime when you protest against something that you feel is wrong, that makes you unpatriotic? I thought that it was the idea of being able to protest. That's what makes us America. And then when I see a Confederate flag, I saw quite a few Confederate flags on that day. And now help me out with this one. I mean, I know I'm not as smart as Donald Trump or his sons, but just, tolerate me, please, and help me. You're angry, you're upset because you bought into the lie that the election was stolen. So let me try and figure this one out here. You say the election was stolen. I'm trying to understand all those Republicans that got elected. You have to excuse me, folks. It's kind of dusty in here. Anyway, all those Republicans that were reelected or got elected, how could that be in an election that you claim was stolen? And if we progressives, we Democrats, if we were going to steal an election, why would we steal it so that you have all these Republicans getting elected to Congress? See, that's what I don't get. Actually, the only person that really got whipped upon was Donald Trump. That's the first place. The second place, if you really believe that the whole thing was funky, why didn't you resign your seat? Because according to you guys, if the election was unfair, it was stolen. Okay. So in your various state legislatures, I don't see you fighting to say, well, in the state of Iowa, for example, we want to do it over again. I mean, you would be stupid to try and fight for something like that. But hey, you said the election was stolen. You say that the election was stolen, yet, what was it, about 60 times? Republican judges, some of whom were appointed by, they were appointed by Donald Trump. Democratic judges, independent judges. And I'm not saying that, we're trying to, politically label people on the bench. But I'm just saying, these people were appointed by Republican presidents and Democratic presidents. And they said, stealing, that's BS. The elections were fair. Every time Trump and his people went into court, they got the crap kicked out of them. I understand that happened to in the amount of about 61, 62 times. The Attorney General of the United States of America, I think he was probably the most infamous Attorney General since the Teapot Dome scandal. What was that, 1921, 22, right? And yet, he said the election was A-OK. Now, this is the guy that basically gave Donald Trump a free ticket. He allowed Trump to use the Justice Department as his personal law firm. And even he says the election was fair. The guy who was picked by Trump. Said, yeah, this has been the most fair election in American history. What the hell do you people want? What's really going on here? See, those are the questions that need to be asked. And the disappointing thing about Democrats is that when it comes to demanding justice, they're very slow on their feet. The business that they're going through now, what's this now? The new year, January? This should have been happening by the beginning of February of last year. Law and justice, they do not have to be slow. They do not have to move at a glacial pace. And that is what's really worrying a lot of us now, because if you don't hold people accountable to the law, you will have no law. And I have to really wonder, in the community of people of color, do we need to start stockpiling weapons to protect ourselves? That's a question that needs to be asked. Because I see these Trump supporters, this right-wing Republican Party, and all they've been talking about is getting guns and killing people, calling people's homes and threatening them. Hey, you are an election official. If a Democrat wins, we're going to get you. And we're going to get your families, too. Isn't it time that the president start worrying about the protection of American citizens? You know, this is the problem that I have with my party. This is what, especially among Black and Hispanic men, that is what's bugging us about the Democratic Party. It's like you don't have the guts for the fight. Listen, and I know that this will irritate some people, Democrats, you are on the side of the angels. I don't give a damn who doesn't like me saying that, but it's true. And when I say on the side of the angels, I am talking about you have issues and solutions to issues that the mass majority of the American people want. They have said it time after time. But if you're not out there fighting for it, what happens? Nothing. What you need to start doing, Democrats, you need to start getting federal marshals into these school board meetings. Federal marshals, you know, with the votes are counted, you need federal marshals this time around to protect everyone in there, Republicans and Democrats. And you set up set up cameras so that anybody can go to their TV and they can, oh, so that's what's going on now, and they're counting. And there goes a federal guy, and he's standing or sitting right there in the middle, and we see that everything is on the up and up. Because that is the only way that we're going to be able to put this noise to bed. An open, free, fair election, observed by everyone, just like the type of thing that Americans that we used to do around the world. Remember, we used to be the guys that people would call from different countries, hey, come in and oversee our election to make sure it's being done fairly. Well, charity begins at home, right? Well, that's what we need to do in 22 and in 24, and maybe that should become a permanent part of how we do elections. That way, everyone knows the deal is fair. And the Democrats, we need to fight for that. We need to fight for that publicly. We need to elect Democrats who want to be a part of that fight. You know, it's time this. Obama was a beautiful president, lovely family, but that wasn't enough. Okay? He needed to be much more vicious, quite frankly. And that's one of the things that's hurting us now. And let me see, because I put down a few other ideas here that I think will be helpful. And we need to get to the heart of the matter again. Getting to the heart of the matter. That's what this whole thing has to be about. The point that Republicans are afraid because they know that their ideology does not attract the majority of the American people anymore. That is their main problem. So what do they want to do? They decide that, well, if we can't win with white working class folks by having a coherent platform as to what we feel is necessary, you know, the things that we feel are necessary to do, to hell with that. We'll just scare white people by telling them that people of color are their enemy and that they're out to get them. And see, this is why, as far as I'm concerned, this Republican Party has no place in a democracy. They have no program that help the mass majority of working people in this country. My God, they haven't. When was that? 09. They said, no, don't go with Obama and his health care plan. Don't do it. We can give you a better one. That was 09. This is 22. Has anyone seen has anyone seen the Republican plan for the nation's health care? I sure as hell haven't. Have you? But see, they're not interested in bread and butter issues. All they want to do is give tax cuts to the wealthiest and to certain corporations. Oh, and of course, they want the right to be able to peek up your woman's skirt and see what's going on down there. I'm serious. I have never seen so many men interested in the workings of the female vagina as this Republican Party. And I really wonder sometimes, man, do you guys even, well, let me put it this way. I think that in terms of a woman's personal parts, that's between her companion, and her doctor, period. It should not be a playground for the Republican Party to try and use to score political points. But that's what, we have allowed to happen in this country. With this fight between choice and, pro-choice and this is madness. We need to behave as a country that's being run by adults. And as long as you allow Republicans a dominant seat at the table, we will never get there. And that's just, and that's just the way it is with this party. They would rather talk about white supremacy than talk about making sure that you and your kids have fresh water to drink, fresh and clean water to drink. That that you're going to have a hospital in the area that you live at, because in rural areas, so many rural areas, they don't have the doctors, they don't have clinics, and that's what's important. But oh no, the Republicans are rather, hold rallies, and this includes Trump. They rather hold rallies to worship at the feet of white supremacy than to make sure that those same white folks have health care, that those same white folks can get an education, so those same white folks can make a living in the 21st century. That is the problem in a nutshell. They have nothing else. They're always talking about the race card. They are the race card. Because that's their, default position. Yeah, well, let's talk about how people of color take advantage of white working class people. No, you're the ones that take advantage. You poobahs in the conservative right-wing movement in the Republican Party. You guys are the ones that take advantage of working class white folks. And one of the things, and on a personal, visceral level, that disgusts me, especially coming out of the projects like I did, I hate to see people be played for chumps. And that's essentially what the Republican Party has been doing since the 80s. Some of us thought that the Republican Party, during the mid and late 90s, were trying to get to a point of sanity. But we were wrong. That Republican Party, just as this one, they're not able to change. They're not able to walk forward. And that is the problem. That's why when you look at the Republicans, anytime you see these birds, it's like storm clouds have come into the room, okay? It's always like, oh God, here goes the Klan marching down the streets. Remember that Klan march in 1924? I mean, not remember, but from studying history. Every time you see Republicans, that's what you see. That's that vibration that you feel, that sense of dread, right? That is the modern Republican Party. When's the last time you heard Republicans boasting the party of Lincoln? You don't hear that too often out of Republicans, because they know it's not true. It's not true. Their thing since 1965, slowly but surely, their thing is to capture, bring in the folks that wanted to see Martin Luther King get his head shot off. That is the Republican, that's the modern Republican Party. And yes, I know the Republican Party better than most Republicans of today. I grew up in the party. And I will never stop saying it. My mom and dad were rock rib Republicans. Rock-ribbed New York Republicans. I had the fortune to meet Rockefeller, to meet Senator Romney's parents, and to personally know and be I don't want to say friend, but a good acquaintance of Senator Jake Javits. Also, the congressman from, was it Buffalo? But that was a different Republican Party. These people now, they're the suit and tie version of the Ku Klux Klan. And all you have to do is listen to them. What is it, a senator from, Indiana, if I'm not mistaken. This guy says, and he has the nerve to put it in public, we should stop condemning the Nazis for the Holocaust and the concentration camps and the ovens because we don't get their side of the story. Now, you think about that. Their side of the story. How can somebody that puts babies in ovens have a side to a story? But that's the Republican Party. That is their big tent. They'll say, well, we're a big tent party. Big tent. Well, it's nice to be welcoming, but a party must have some principles. Apparently, this modern Republican Party, they have no principles. They don't even have a platform. In 2020, there was no platform. You remember the Republican convention? There was no platform. We stand for this and we stand. No, there was none. And all you got out of them was, this anti-immigrant, nationalist rhetoric. And that's it. And what they've taken to doing, they get some Hispanics, maybe a few blacks, people like Larry Elder, people like, what's that young black woman? Even Donald Trump made her look like a jerk. Her. I remember they had two black females. They tried to sound as ghetto as possible, and they succeeded. Running around saying all these really great things about Donald Trump. And I'm like, what the hell is this? You got this young gentleman up here at Columbia University, McWalter something. He wrote a book, the whole thing of the woke, what do you call it, the woke movement or whatever. And I'm like, damn, this is what you go to an Ivy League? This is the kind of crap that you talk coming out of an Ivy League school? Now, most people of color, black, brown, and they're even attacking Asians, big time. Attacking them for voting Democratic. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? It's like they're painting targets on people. And then when people wind up getting shot, beaten, they're like, ooh, I had nothing to do with that. That's today's Republican Party. So, no, God rest my parents, but they wouldn't have anything to do with this. And they were even speaking. I remember they used to talk about after they left New York and decided to move to Richmond, Virginia, which is where my mom was from. Well, her family's been in Virginia since the 1680s, and they were noticing how black people were becoming a rarer and rarer sight in the Republican Party. Colin Powell made some observations along those same lines. And I'm saying, how can a party like that, what's it doing in America? This is like one of the fascist parties that you would find in Europe, in Central Europe in the 1930s. This is what the Republican Party has become. This is what they are about. There's no program or platform to help working people in this country. Their platform is about hate. And it's time excuse me, turn this but that's what's happened. And people need to start being aware of this. I really fear for the future of this country. And I think that any sane person would feel the same way. When you have a political party that openly talks about people of color like we're some kind of insect. I'll give you an example. This clown up there in Wisconsin, Johnson, supposedly a United States senator. This damn buffoon talks about, oh, well, I wasn't afraid during the troubles on January 6th because I knew I would, as long as I knew that they were just, good Americans demonstrating for their rights. And the other idiot that said, oh, well, hell, these were just people that they were just visiting, like it was just a weekend visit type thing. And I'm like, how could any rational human being look at the damage, both physical and psychological, that we saw on the 6th and talk about, oh, well, these were good Americans who just came by to visit. Hey, man, look, nobody comes to my house acting like that. People were killed. And you're going to talk or put it in such a way that, oh, well, these were black or brown people, then I would have reason to feel fear. And I'm like, are we on the same planet? Let's talk about the history of racial violence in this country and who usually was the who participated in that violence and who was the victim. See, this is why I would say that anyone that is trying to stop history from being taught, they are no friend of the United States. They are no friend of America. Because your friends want you to know the truth. And that's the thing about this Republican Party. They want to snuff out the truth. And those are the type of things that we have to watch out for. I'm going to do some history issues next week because these are things that people need to know here in America. Because if you don't know where you've been, it's impossible to know where you have to go. Folks, be careful out there. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your families. May the Creator bless you and keep you in the hollow of His hand. And we'll be back. Same time, same place, same channels. And this is Bob Gumbs of the Concerned Forum. Peace to you all. Take care. Oh, yes.
All right.
Yes.
You see, you didn't make much at the table, only one little time.
Yeah, and I caught myself.
I'm gonna tell you all the time, so you're gonna stop doing this.
Yeah.
Your audio was crystal clear.
Did you,
Huh?
no, I was going to ask you,
Ah,
what did you think about the show?
that was pretty good though. Everything was great. They liked the subject, the color, that was excellent.
Okay.